Good afternoon. This is Cyberlink of People News Today. I go by Cyberlink, just if you're out and about with an S. I just want to talk about, kind of been watching a lot of those auditors out there over the past few years and trying to fight for the First Amendment, and some of those people fighting for the Second Amendment. And I've noticed a lot with the cops, and a lot of the cops do a lot of bad things, a lot of stuff with ego, a lot of stopping people violating the Fourth Amendment all the time, asking for IDs when they don't have the right to ask for ID. They tend to violate a lot of civil rights, and now with Trump in office and Antifa going crazy, now you got the right supporting that, and in a lot of cases, they should be doing what they're doing. You know, they should be aggressively going after a lot of these people that are breaking the laws. They should be violently going after people because they're defending themselves. But there's a lot of it being going too far. And now that they're going after Antifa, they're going after normal people just on the street. Maybe somebody grabbing lunch, pulling over and eating a taco, and all of a sudden they're treating them like Antifa. And just because someone doesn't want to provide their ID because they don't have to, they'll beat them and tase them and drag them and put them in jail, and they'll lie about them, and they'll end up with a criminal record for just because they don't believe the Fourth Amendment should be violated. So what we have to find, what I'm trying to figure out and do, and what I want to try to do in a couple videos here is kind of talk this through, because we all know we need cops, because our society of people, I mean, let's face it, some are crazy. I mean, let's face it, we've got the right conservatives that are pretty based, but there's still, even in the right, there's still a bunch of people that are easily swayed by the media. You know, 1 second, Epstein, let's get the Epstein videos, there's corruption, there's this. And then the second they have the office, it's like, we don't need the Epstein videos anymore. It's all good. Now that the FBI is on our side, they're all good people. It's like, nobody realized that not one single FBI agent went to jail for violating January 6th, all those people's rights. I mean, if you are really a conservative and you believe that the FBI and what they did is they took away Americans' rights on January 6th by setting them up. We have videos of them setting people up, planting guns. There was in the hallway, they literally brought a gun into the White House and dropped it. And their goal was to try to make it look like an American brought a gun into the White House. The FBI brought that gun in, and they dropped it, and they were going to plant it on somebody, but that ended up falling out or doing something, and they ended up picking up and not doing it. Those 2 bombs that were planted, we all know that was FBI that planted it, and then that ended up just trying to cover it up, and all of a sudden, no, we have no idea how those 2 bombs, and it just, shh. Now that Trump's in office, everybody quiet, we don't need to know anymore. And that's wrong. It doesn't matter who's in office. We should know these things. You know, I understand the Epstein thing, because to be honest with you, the problem with Epstein is 60% of the government would be on those lists, and I don't think the people could even handle releasing the Epstein files, because if you do that, then you're gonna spend, the government's gonna come to a complete halt, because all of the corruption, all the dumb people that would be trying to say, oh, yeah, it looks like our guy, but it's probably deep fakes, and, you know, they're morons. So even if you released it all, half the people wouldn't believe it, and it would just be nothing but 3 years of nothing being accomplished, and our economy would go to hell, and it would destroy our country anyway. So it'd be better to go slowly and let them do them one at a time, to go after the really bad people and work one at a time, than to try to go after all the Epstein files. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is like cops. There is no such thing as, you know, putting a bad apple. No, it's called a bad bushel. You have a bad bushel of apples, and then a new cop comes in, they're a good apple, you know? You might have one good apple, and then you throw them into a bad bushel, and they're immediately destroyed. They're immediately destroyed. That's what happens. And if you have a good apple trying their best to be good, they either have to get corrupt or they're going to get spit out of the system, out of the bushel. They'll be kicked out quickly because they're not allowed to be anything but bad. You can't have a good apple in a bad bushel. It just can't happen. And that's our problem. That's the problem with police. How do we make our system of police good as opposed to right now, which is bad? And how do we slowly bring it around? And I've given it a lot of thought. And I think, first and foremost, the simplest solution to start bringing that around is to we need to make the cops have their own liability insurance. So what we do is all the government agencies take the first $1 million of liability from the cops. We say, get the break from the insurance company. So if the city's paying for their liability, you say the city gets a discount of $10 million by removing that $1 million liability on all the officers. And then they take that $10 million, divide it up by their officers, and put it into their paychecks. Divide it equally among the officers and say, okay, we saved $10 million. We're going to give each of you $400 extra in your paycheck every month or every week, whatever it is. Now you guys go buy liability insurance. And now the insurance companies will do risk assessments of each sheriff or each officer, and they'll sell them liability insurance. They'll do background searches. They'll do what insurance companies are great at, and that's determining liability of a police officer. They'll look at their records. They're very good at what they do. They're not going to insure a psycho, that had high school of beating people up, that had records and whatever. They'll do what they do best. If there's a bunch of complaints, they're going to consider those risk factors. If they have DUIs, they'll consider that risk factors. If they have, if they've beat up other people over and over, they're going to consider that a risk factor. So basically what happens is they have a very high liability insurance. They're going to be very difficult to insure and very costly. So the $400 ain't going to cover them. They may have to pay $1,000 for insurance. So for them to be a cop, they're not going to make a lot of money being a cop. But on the other side, you're going to have a good cop. They might only have to pay $200. So that in itself would make be a very good idea, because they're going to make a lot more money. So the good cops, the good apples, are going to make a whole bunch of money. The real question is why do we accept bad apples in police departments? Do we accept bad apples as air traffic controllers? Think about it. If an air traffic controller crashed a plane and killed off, 40 people, and we just go, we have a bad apple, would we say take a week off and come back and start in a week? Just get the alcohol out of your system, come on back in a week and start over. In fact, we'll move you from New York and we'll put you in Los Angeles. Don't worry about it. Would you do that with an air traffic controller that literally got drunk and crashed a plane in LA or in New York City, and then just say, take a week off, start in Los Angeles? Would we do that with an air traffic controller? And then he crashes another plane in Los Angeles, kills another 50 people, and we go, take a week off and we'll move you down to Texas. Doesn't that sound a little insane? We don't do that with air traffic controllers. They get like one crash, they're gone. You put one close call. They only allowed to have like two close calls, and then they're like get write-ups and they're gone. I mean, it's not, they're not allowed to crash planes and get to go again. Why is it that cops can literally murder somebody that has no gun, they could shoot people in the back, and they can come back to work after a week or two? They have to quit, but they keep their certification and they can go work in another department. And then they could shoot somebody there, and the same thing. They could literally, there's cops that have shot people 3-4 times without a gun, and they can just still work as a cop. Why? Why do we allow that? Why do people tolerate that? I mean, how about a school bus driver? Are we going to allow a school bus driver to drive your kids to school and then one day come in drunk and crash and all your kids get hurt? Say, hey, take tomorrow off, sober up, and then get back on that route the next day and say, hey, man, there's some bad apples, but he's all right now. He's sober. He said he's good to go. And just, put your kids back on that bus. Don't worry about it. Doesn't that sound stupid? But we do that with cops. We do that with cops all the time. He shot that kid in the back, but, he was in fear. There's literally a cop that shot up a car with an unarmed guy handcuffed because an acorn hit his car. He wasn't even fired. He quit, I think, because he had a mental breakdown, but that's besides the point. What if anybody of us took a car and just shot up a guy in a car? What would happen to us? We'd go to prison. You can't just shoot up a car with a person inside of it and not go to prison. This cop didn't see a day, didn't even face the threat of going to prison. If we can't trust cops to do the right thing, and we can't trust our government to protect us from cops, that's a huge problem. But we need cops. We need cops to protect us. We need them to enforce and protect and defend us of the Constitution. Protect our gun rights, our Second Amendment. Protect our freedom of speech, of actual freedom of speech. Not take it from us, which they do every single day. Watch First Amendment videos. First Amendment videos are out there. People give hard time to the people doing First Amendment audits. They just constantly, harass people because they're videotaping people. And they make them feel uncomfortable. The uncomfortable police come out all the time and take away people's guns and ID and their cameras and try to ID them and all the civil rights violations. At some point, it's going to break. You can't keep violating people's Fourth Amendment, First Amendment, Second Amendment constantly over and over and over, and something's got to break. Everybody's tired of Antifa and all that flip side of it. Yeah, we're all tired of that, but the cops can't be violating the right and the left and expect nothing to happen. Officer safety. What about Americans? When do American citizens get American citizen safety? When is our safety equal to government employees? When are we the citizen, the boss of the government agents, just as important as officer safety? We're not. We are literally garbage compared to officer safety. An officer can kill you at any time for any reason because officer safety is more important than a citizen's life. Just remember that. That's a fact. It's an absolute fact. A citizen has no right to protect his life over an officer. An officer has every right to kill you over his safety. A citizen has to sit there and let cops point their guns at him and shoot him. He has no right to defend himself. None. Not even on his own property, not even in his own home does a man in America, in a free country, have the right to protect himself against officers, because officer safety is more important than an American citizen's right to protect himself and his family in his own home, because officer safety takes precedent over Americans' freedom, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So give that some thought. I think we should start with the most basic thing that could probably be pulled off and done, which is the first 1 million of liability has to be paid for by the officer. And then we got to start teaching these officers that it's a job. Keep your emotions in check. If they get away, they get away. You got, the cops have the ability to track. You got cameras everywhere. Just relax. If they get away, they get away. Catch them another day. You're either professionals and good at your job or you're morons. If you get all pumped up and think you got to have 400 cops chasing somebody through the streets, if you got their picture and their car, catch them another day. You don't have to kill 40 people in order to catch one guy today. Let them go. Get them another day. It's no big deal. It really is no big deal. Outside of somebody that's a mass shooter or somebody like that, that if they got away, you know, they're going to go hurt more people. That would be the only one I could think of. But somebody that had a freaking tag light out, that panicked and ran, no, I don't think you should need to kill 20 people at 120-mile-an-hour chase down the highways because his tag expired. I really don't see it. He didn't have his seatbelt on. My body, my choice. People don't have to wear their seatbelt. In fact, you don't even need a tag on your car. Americans have the right to travel in their vehicle. End of story. Without a tag. I know you all slaves think, oh, we got to have a tag. That's what no. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means I have the right to take my personal belongings and travel. Unless I have a vehicle where I'm earning income off of it, like a taxi or a bus, then you have to get a license. I know everybody's been programmed to think you have to have a tag, but tags were meant, and they came into action because they were about going after the income generated on highways. But for some reason, we all just became slaves and just happily let them start going. And then they forced us to buy insurance because the insurance companies wanted money. Then they forced us to buy, you know, to put the seatbelts on because they could make money by giving us tickets. They forced us to put the chairs in for the kids. Now California is saying 16-year-olds have to be in a booster chair or a $480 ticket. So good luck in California. You got another chick, you're going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars in tickets on the highway before you even get through the year. So they're just figuring out another way to make more money off you guys. So good luck. I don't know how y'all do it. But, you know, American citizens should be, the cops should protect and serve its citizens, and the citizens should be backing up the cops that are doing the right thing. And sadly, that's not happening. Sadly, the people don't want to back up the cops because we don't know if they're doing right or wrong. We see a lot of bad stuff. So let's work on it. We got to work on this because it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I don't know if y'all saw Serpico back in the 70s. I'm old. I remember Serpico, and I don't think a thing has changed since that. I don't think anything has changed. If you don't know the movie, go watch the movie Serpico, because this was a good apple who tried to work in New York City, and he refused to take the money, and they basically almost killed him for it. And that's what's happening in police today. There's nothing changed. Nothing. New York is, I don't know how anybody can handle living in the New York Police Department. It's crazy. So anyway, let's start working on this, because I think if we had the good police, if we can turn the bad bushels into half good apples and half bad apples, we'd stand a good chance. You know, we might have a good chance to turn this stuff around, and we could the people might start backing up the police, and let's get the money out of it. Let's make it points and not money. Let's make it let's get police solving crimes. They are only allowed to arrest people where there's a crime with a victim. So they can't arrest you for anything. If there's no victim signing a victim statement or a dead person, then they can't arrest you, period. If there's no victim, and the state cannot be a victim. There has to be a victim, a person's name, a victim, in order to arrest somebody. So it has to be like they stole money from a corporation. That could be a victim. They hurt somebody. They cut someone off in traffic. Okay, that's a victim. They cut somebody off and knocked them out of the road. There's a victim. But somebody going, 10 miles an hour over the speed limit on an empty highway, that's not a victim. You can't arrest them and put them in jail for that. So we've got to get this stuff organized. We got to get this stuff back to a little bit of freedom in America. We have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The liberty part is gone in America. There's more liberty in Afghanistan than there is in America. We need to get back to that liberty part. All right. So let's keep that up, people. People News Today. We're finally getting out there. I'm going to start making some more videos. Let me know what you think. Try to subscribe, like. I'd like to get on live maybe. I might try to get out there, make a couple videos. Maybe I'll stop by and videotape a couple cop stops and see if we get good reception or not. You know, we'll see what happens. Let me get enough people to get live, and we'll see what goes. Please subscribe to me so I can get out there. Thanks. Bye.